Hi everybody, it's Russ from My Hammers 11. Hope you're safe and well. Today's guest is a man that you probably won't recognise his face, sorry Ian, but you hopefully will recognise his voice, particularly if you, do you remember when we had live sport? Yeah, Ian did, because he was commentating for Sky Sports Premier League and also more notably the Scottish Premier League. But also, if you were around Upton Park in sort of the mid to late 80s, he was the stadium announcer for 3.5 years, from 1986, I believe. It's Mr. Ian Crocker. Hi, Ian. How are you?
Hi there, mate. How are you?
Very well, thank you. And I hear you're in Scotland, so yeah, not too bad place to be in isolation.
No, it's been sunshine all the way for a change up here, so not a bad place to be in.
Absolutely brilliant. Thank you for taking the time. What we're doing is we're interviewing lots of fans across the world, lots of different age groups as well, and finding out about their stories, but also the type of players that were important to them or had a significance to them. So what we do is, with all guests, is we find out a bit more about their sort of West Ham journey, so to speak. So for you, Ian, what would be your sort of your earliest memory of West Ham?
Well, I was brought up in Weymouth, in Dorset, seaside resort where a lot of people go on holiday, and supported the local team, Weymouth, who were non-league. And around 1974, when I was 9, I thought, it's about time I supported a professional club. So I had a look around and I saw West Ham, I think they beat Leicester 6-2 and Burnley 5-3 in the space of a couple of games. I thought, well, they look quite a good team to follow. And more importantly, when you're 9 years old, these things matter. They had the same colours as Weymouth.
Weymouth, yeah, I was about to say, yeah.
They were terracotta and blue, but same thing, really. So I thought, same colours, got to be done. And of course, that was the season they went on to win the FA Cup in 1975, won it again in 1980. So it was all going well in the early part of our
Well, great time. It was a perfect timing. Absolutely perfect timing. So that's your earliest one. Well, obviously you've done a lot in football and comment and done the announcing at West Ham. What would you say is your sort of most fondest memory of West Ham?
I think I'd go back to my childhood, and I mean 1975 was good, but I'd only just started following West Ham then. The 1980 Cup final, when nobody really gave us a chance against Arsenal. And most of my school pals at the time seemed to be Arsenal fans. So for me, when Trevor Hooking scored that winner and when we won the FA Cup that year, that was fantastic. So I always hark back to me schoolboy days for that one. Over the years, watching them, commentating on them and working at the club, there's been so many memories. It's hard to pick out, one in particular, but winning the playoff final when I got to commentate on that was pretty good going, although of course I was completely unbiased on the day.
Of course. And obviously when you were at Capital, you worked with Mr. Bobby Moore, the late great Bobby Moore.
Bobby Moore, yeah.
Yes.
What a guy, such a humble guy. You'd never guess he was the man who lifted the World Cup for England. And worked on quite a few games with Bobby, and he would always ring the office during the week asking how everyone was. It's always about other people rather than Bob himself. My favourite story there is we did a game at West Brom. I think it was an FA Cup tie. And he drove me up and he said, listen, I'll park up. You go and get the press passes. So I went to the media entrance at the Hawthorns and I said, from Capital Radio, said Ian Crocker and Bobby Moore. And the guy, without even thinking, went, which one are you, Bobby Moore?
Oh, God.
But I'll take that. Yeah, actually,
exactly.
But yeah, lots of happy memories about Bobby, taken far too early.
Yeah, of course. No, exactly. Well, thanks. I mean, it's really nice to hear those memories. And as you said, it's lovely to think back at, particularly now when we haven't got any live sport, and to think back at days gone by. And that's the whole point of this channel. And that's why everyone sort of is really hot on it. And we've got lots of nice guests coming up as well as yourself taking the time. Now, in terms of what we're going to be doing, finding out about your Hammers 11, there's a few rules we have to abide by, because I like to sort of try and put some parameters. One is it's a 4-4-2 formation, although I have been lenient. As long as you don't put Paolo or Tony Cotti in goal, I think I'll allow it. And the second one is it's your 11, so it's your favourite players. It doesn't have to be the best players. It might be the worst players. It might be the French-based players. It's up to you in terms of what you want to talk about. And lastly is you have to be alive to have seen him play. So obviously you worked with Bobby, but unfortunately you weren't alive necessarily to watch him play, so he doesn't qualify. But Gary Breen would, for example.
There's been a few over the years. Interesting.
Exactly. So we'll go with the Ian 11. Who have we got in between the sticks?
Well, this is a difficult one actually, because I was a big fan of Ludek Miloško. Easier said than done. when he was a player, but also when he was coaching at the club, and got to know him a bit there as well, Ludo. Fantastic guy. But again, I'm going to have to go back to when I first started following West Ham and Phil Parkes, because I remember the excitement when he joined us from QPR, and just what a formidable figure he was between the sticks. And there's a great picture of him holding the FA Cup aloft in 1980, and I thought, that trophy's in safe hands. And I never really knew Phil that well when he was playing there, but I met him along when Tony Gale introduced me to him at West Ham about a couple of years ago, and I shook his hands, and the hands were the size of, and just like a lot of players from that era, lovely, humble guy, and he would be my number one for sure.
Yeah, exactly. And as you said, that it seems that a common trait amongst any of that era of players, how incredibly humble they all are, and how it's almost like, they're revered as these gods, of anyone who's a Claret and Blue fan, but they're so humble and so nice.
That's what I said with Bobby Moore. It's like the way Bobby conducted himself, you'd never guess he was the man who did what he did in his career. And they're all pretty much the same. That team from the 80s in particular, really good guys, and you still see some of them knocking about the Upton Park and now the London Stadium, and they often congregate in the media room. And it kind of takes me back to my childhood, but I'm almost like too embarrassed to say anything to them, because it takes you back to being a kid, doesn't it? You don't want anything. Blimey, what company to be.
Yeah, no, totally right. So we'll put Parkes in between the sticks. Who are we going to have at left back then, Ian?
Left back, it was a difficult one for me, because I did see a bit of Frank Lampard Senior towards the end of his career, but probably not enough to do him justice and what a career he had. I was a big fan of George Paris in that position as well, but I think I've got to go for Dixie, because he epitomised so much about West Ham at the time, and a terrific player and competitor. And it would have to be Julian Dixon.
Good shout. Okay, so put Dixie at left back, and who's going to go on the right back then spot?
Right back, I think, again, going back to my younger years, and having spent so much time commentating and working in Scotland in my career, had to have at least one Scot, maybe more, in my team. So it would be Ray Stewart, because just an iconic figure with his penalties, not just his penalties, but terrific player as well, and another one, a long-serving player for West Ham.
Exactly, and a very nice guy as well.
Yeah, lovely guy.
Yeah. Okay, so put a couple of formidable fullbacks there.
Not bad.
Okay. Who's going to go? Who's going to go in the centre back positions? Who are your two centre backs?
Centre back, I'm going to be a bit. I'm going to go with two guys. I mean, obviously, there's a lot of choices. There's Rio. There's so many, but I'm going to go with two guys who, again, I'm being selfish because I had the privilege to eventually work with on radio and in television. But they're pretty decent players as well. But two guys I've got to know really well, and again, just fantastic people. It'll be Arvin Martin, another long server, and Tony Gailey, who I still work with quite regularly. One of the funniest guys I've ever met. I'm going to have to admit that, sadly. He's just brilliant company. And so it'll be Alvin and Gailey.
And that completes quite a strong back four. There's not going to be much change there, are there? That's for sure. And if it all kicks off, they're going to all hold their own nicely. Okay, that's nice. It's nice and strong, right? So who are we going to go? Let's go to midfield. Let's go to left wing rather. Who we got the left wing?
Well, I'm going to have to jiggle my midfield around a bit.
Fine.
Because I'm going to pick players who, frankly, could have played anywhere on the pitch, because of their talent and so on.
Sure.
So I'll go here with Alan Devonshire, who again was another player that I think was so far ahead of his time. He was just such a talented player to watch, so comfortable on the ball, and so many memories of just him seemingly gliding across a pitch. Another guy who didn't know that well when I was there, because I think he was coming towards the end of his time, but as a player. Another player who I met a few years ago, and the same as we said earlier, just a great bloke, and it was good to be in his presence. Although it took me back to being a kid, and I was probably mumbling my words to him. But another good guy and an outstanding player.
Exactly, and as someone like one of the previous interviews we had, only cost $5,000.
Yeah, what a bargain! Yeah, Yeah, I mean, if you look at football throughout all time, that has got to be one.
Exactly. You can barely get a second-hand Fiesta for that now, so that's not too bad. Right, so we'll put Dev on the left. Who's going to go on the right then, Ian?
Well, I'm going to have to squeeze Paolo Di Canio in here, which will become apparent when I pick my front two. But obviously, another guy who could play anywhere he wanted to and probably did most of the time. But just had such an impact at West Ham. Amazing player to watch. The fans loved him, vice versa. And at the time, he was just a breath of fresh air. He never quite knew what was coming in many different ways with Paolo, but he was never dull, put it that way.
No, exactly. A lovely guy, and yeah, people have commented. Obviously, at the moment, in the strange world we're living in, he's been posting a few sort of West Ham related sort of videos, which is again, the guy loves the club. I think it was Nicky from West Ham Fan TV said that he interviewed him once, and he was immaculately dressed, and he went, "You dress so smartly," and he went, "Well, I always dress nicely for my family." And sort of like, that's just Paolo. But yeah, and as you said,
a couple of interviews with him as well, and he was everything you'd expect him to be, and he was charming.
Yeah, and also putting on the right, obviously, you could tell him to go on the right. We'll see what happens, but it's Paolo, isn't it?
As we say, but I've just got to squeeze him in somewhere. So
exactly. Okay, so we've got Dev on the left, we have Paolo on the right. Obviously, not away games. Away games, we'll have to put someone else in because he never did away games. So who are you going to go in for your middle? Who are you going to be happy for your centre midfielders?
Central midfielders, well, Billy Bonds would have to be one. Obviously, he could play at the back as well, but I wanted to put Alvin and Gailey in. So Billy Bonds in midfield, probably my all-time West Ham hero. He'd be the captain as well, obviously. And another guy that I got to work with on radio, and also, in fact, when I was working at West Ham in the 80s, and he was doing a bit in the youth team. And just when he crossed that line as a player, he was something else. But off the pitch, he was totally different. Quiet and such a nice guy. And I never told him that he was my hero growing up. If I had done, he probably guessed in mine. If I had done, he'd have been thoroughly embarrassed by it all because he's that sort of guy. Yeah. And I did see him a few years back, towards the end of our time at Upton Park, actually. Bumped into him and not changed one bit, and still looking as fit as a fiddle then. So it would have to be, for me, the iconic player of my time watching West Ham, Billy Bonds.
That's great. And who's going to partner Billy in the middle then? Ian?
Oh, this was a tough one because there's a lot of choices. I saw a bit of Trevor Brooking towards the end of his career, but not enough to probably include him. You got Joe Cole. Really enjoyed watching Scott Parker, Frank Lampard Jr. Quite enjoyed watching Liam Brady in his time at the club. Michael Carrick when he first came on the scene. Remember when Joe Cole came through and the people behind the scenes were saying, "Hey, we have somebody who might actually be better than him in Michael Carrick." And obviously, he went on to have a fantastic career at Manchester United. But I'm going to go for a modern player because I think in this day and age, to last in the first team for as long as he has.
I think we've lost you there, Ian.
Over the years, so I'd have to go for Mark Noble.
Mark Noble, yeah.
And and you just know with Nobes that if he wasn't playing on the pitch, he'd be sat in the stand cheering everyone on.
Exactly, and I think it was another interview I had with someone. We were talking about sort of his renaissance in the last couple of years. I think there was a period where he was maybe 2-3 seasons ago playing 60 minutes and then going off, and now he's 90 minutes fit as a fiddle. And it's incredible. This sort of renaissance in the last couple of years of him.
Yeah, I think a few people thought the game was up for him at that time.
Definitely.
But like I say, he's a guy who obviously looks after himself, speaks very well. Just West Ham through and through, and he's been a key figure for so many years now.
Exactly. So we've got a nice blend in the midfield here, and we've got some skill with Paolo who can drift. We've got Dev's obviously silkiness and his pace, and then we've got sort of Nobes and Bonds to sort of protect that back foot. Exactly. And that, again, if it all kicks off, Billy and Mark will put a boot in as well, and Paolo, God knows what will happen.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, could get interesting.
Exactly. Right. So who are we going to go for up front then, Ian?
Well, up front, I'm going to go with the magnificent partnership that was Cotti and McAvenny,
Yep.
because they propelled us so close to winning the league in the good year, 85, 86. And just the two of them were unplayable that season. And Tony Cotti, another one who I remember watching his debut, who I got to work with with Sky, and Frank McAvenny, who I see quite a bit in Glasgow, usually in the local curry house, actually, because he lives back there now. But just that partnership and that season, for that alone, those two were just unreal and an absolute joy to watch. We should have won the league, but hey, we came close.
Nearly. And there's plenty of characters in that team, that's for sure. The team morale will be interesting. The Christmas parties will be interesting.
The dressing room will be interesting and all, that's for sure.
So we've got Parks in goal, we've got Julian, Tony Gale and Alvin in the centres, and Ray Stewart on the right back position. We've got midfield, we've got Dev on the left, Paolo on the right, Bonzi and Mark in the middle, and then we've got TC and Maka up front. That's a strong team in.
I don't mind that team. I like the look of it.
No, it sounds really good.
Team of leaders as well. Team of leaders.
There's a lot of leaders. We've got how many, and probably I can't calculate it, but how many Hammer the Years as well in there. There's a few in there, that's for sure. That's for sure.
Almost everyone.
Yeah, pretty much, I reckon. Yeah, looking at it. Ian, it's been an absolute pleasure. Thank you so much for taking the time. I appreciate you. You're very busy. And I hope everyone's enjoyed listening to Ian's 11 and the stories, particularly around around this. Obviously, as we mentioned before we recorded, obviously Ian started his sort of West Ham announcing career in '86, the year after we were good. So just missed out, unfortunately. But
still happy memories of that time. Many happy memories of a special club and special people who not only supported the club but who worked there as well. I mean, when I go back to London Stadium now, or Tottenham Park, the same people there's still some people around who work there then that work there now, which not as many obviously, but that kind of sums up the club as well.
But there's still a nice sort of thread of people that have been there ever since this is my 18th season, really. If we have the season, it will be my 18th season if it's included. But yeah, there's still a nice stream, and I still see a lot of people on the train. A lot of the old stadium managers and stuff. Obviously, they live around the area, and so it's lovely to sort of bump into people and reminisce.
A lot of people. I see a lot of people while I was waiting to get onto those trains after the game, because it can take a while, can't it?
yeah. I'm lucky. I get there very early and leave very late, so I don't tend to get.
Definitely,
that's the way to do it. Hang about, yeah. Thanks very much for your time. Thank you for everyone for watching as well. Obviously, like, subscribe, share, watch all the others. We're going to have hundreds more coming on soon. But thank you very much, and stay safe, everyone. Bye bye.